Things were getting a little spooky there at the start of free agency. GP2 to the Portland Trail Blazers. I said it in yesterday's Patreon podcast. Portland was the only team that pulled our hometown possible discount, right? He went to school up there. His father, the Pacific Northwest, Dame. There were all these connections that kind of neutralized the potential hometown discount that GP2 was going to give the Warriors. But here's the thing, man. When you look at GP2's journey to where he is right now at 29 years old, no one can fault him for going and getting the bag. I think everybody expected that, and the Warriors, you hear people go back and forth about being cheap and this or that. I think we all got to just be happy for GP2. He's a champion. He's made it to the league. He's solidified himself on a team with a contract now. Is he going to have all those open back doors? Is he going to get all that easy offense that he got in the Warriors system? No. But, losing him and Otto, I think part of the equation probably was durability. And I'm going to get into the ad here, and we'll talk a little bit about the positional durability and stylistic durability, right? But guys that are always chipped up and you have to kind of load manage and deal with, were they going to make it through back-to-back runs, ideally through the finals? How much did that come into the equation when it came to the offer sheets? And then I don't know about you, but I'm looking at Marvin Bagley getting $37 million. Not Nerlens Noel. Mitchell Robinson getting $60 million. You look at Zubac's deal, and I'm thinking, Kevon's finna get a bag, right? He's going to get something like 40, 45 mil. I'm thinking 12, 15 mil per year, and Kevon gives another discount. Now, I'm not trying to expose anybody or anything like that, but some of you may be too young to remember this, but years and years ago, the old 49ers owners, the DeBartolos, they also had a way of retaining their star players. Not that Looney is a star, but he's an important piece, right? A foundational piece, as Kerr likes to call it. And so, what I'm applying is it's just a very, very nice, gracious deal that Kevon was willing to accept. But he does also probably appreciate and understand all the luxuries that come with being a foundational piece on this Warriors dynasty. So they bring back Kevon on a discount. You lose GP2, you lose Otto. Damian Lee is now with the Phoenix Suns. And, there's a lot. Listen, I saw someone tweet it out. Some dude was on point on Twitter. He was like, listen, man, people just had too unrealistic expectations of Damian Lee. He was not a sixth man. He was not a third guard. And so, that people hated on him. But for a guy on the end of the bench that stayed ready, he was perfect for that role. And I agree. Listen, Damian Lee grew on me over the years because he was always ready, right? He'd come in, he'd make a big shot, make a big play. He was a good teammate. And so he grew on me. I think what some people may miss is it's not the supposed nepotism. Look, be clear, Damian Lee is an NBA player. He's earned his spot in the league. Is he an 8th, 9th, 10th guy, depending on the roster? Yeah, but he still deserves to be in the league because he stays ready. That's not easy to do, man, especially as a shooter. You have to, some people may not appreciate that. To sit on the bench, you haven't played in 2 weeks, come in a game and knock down a corner three, that's tough, man. And D. Lee has shown that ability. So, it is what it is. But here's what I want to get at. I think at least my frustration with keeping Damian Lee all these years, at times, it wasn't the supposed nepotism or that he doesn't deserve to be in the league. It was just the roster spot. It was the roster spot and who else that could have been. And, we've all been clamoring, I think, for more size on this roster, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as Damian Lee going to the Suns, let's be clear here. This is strategy from the Suns. He doesn't have to play all the time or be really good for them all season long. They just need him to be good against the Warriors, against his former team. Come in, a little revenge factor, and the intel. What can you tell us about these guys and their tendencies? So it was very much, I think, a chess move from the Suns. Let's take one of the Warriors guys that has a ton of institutional knowledge to the personnel and system, and let's get that information. So it's a strategic move from the Phoenix Suns signing Damian Lee. The Warriors end up, again, something I kind of hinted at in yesterday's pod, they go get Double D. Now, everyone wants to play with some Double Ds, right? You know, they're dynamic, they're fun. Nah, I'm kidding. But look, Donte DiVincenzo, he fits the script. Villanova guy, you know what that means, hard-nosed. And you understand Milwaukee, okay, he tore the ligament in the foot a couple years ago in the playoffs. But last year, the reason why Milwaukee sent him eventually to Sacramento was that like a 4-team trade with Ibaka in them, right? But it was because they were like, look, we're not going to be able to pay you, you know, and so we'll move you elsewhere. It wasn't like they didn't want him. They felt like they couldn't retain him. Then you've probably heard the story by now that DiVincenzo basically accused Sacramento of burying him in the rotation so he wouldn't get more offers, right? Anyway, the market panned out kind of surprisingly. He ends up taking kind of a make good 1+1 deal here with the Warriors where he's got a player option for next season. And DiVincenzo is a dog, man. You remember him on that Villanova championship team. He was kind of the head of that snake, hard-nosed, and here's what it is. DiVincenzo, he's athletic enough, 6'4", 200 pounds, but he plays with force and energy, hunger, that Villanova pedigree, right? And then he's going to let the system work for him. That's the most important thing, system fit. He'll be able to attack closeouts, be dynamic, make the backdoor cuts and reads that, you know, Steve Kerr covets within the offense. And, you know, he's, again, defensively, like as far as the guard position goes, he's pretty solid. He's going to keep the integrity of the team scheme, right? And then he'll hold his own. He's not nearly as switchable. Look, we know he's not going to be the defender GP2 is because who is? And we're going to lose some of that switchability and versatility. But I think you could make the argument that you could gain that back offensively with DiVincenzo because he's a better shooter than GP2. He's going to spread the floor well beyond just the corners. He's got a little bit off the bounce, right? And when he attacks closeouts, again, he's not going to get up and elevate like GP, but he's going to be able to create shots for others and just do a little more, be a little more dynamic. And I think it'll allow for more dynamic offensive pairings, right? Like you can't have GP, Draymond, and Loon out there, right? Well, you could have DiVincenzo, Draymond, and Loon out there. He's just that much more versatile offensively. And so what you've lost defensively, ideally you gain offensively. Now here's the catch. DiVincenzo chipped up a lot, much like GP2. And that's what I was talking about earlier in the video. I think that it's not really a position. Well, it is kind of a position. I think that archetype it's just a thing. They're going to be chipped up. And the archetype I'm speaking of is an athletic combo guard who defends. Right? You know, like a 6'4", 6'5", a Bruce Brown, a DiVincenzo, a Gary Payton II, right? Those guys tend to get banged up because of their playing style, because they're good athletes, but they're not that big. But they've got to play harder and use a lot of energy and force to kind of make up for their lack of size, and that tends to get them chipped up. So, you know, I think it's a good situation for DiVincenzo and the Warriors. It's a great recovery move. It's just happened to work out again with the market. And what I also wanted to talk about was the load management of the Warriors is elite. And that's why I thought Otto might stay, man. And shout outs to Otto. I got a lot of love for him. Best of luck to him in Toronto. But not all teams load manage the same. And I think Otto was a perfect example of it last year where all teams will try to load manage. They'll be like, look, okay, but how do they make the player feel about it? Right? Because there's a difference. And I think what the Warriors do is they don't make the player feel guilty for load managing, and they keep their confidence up. So when they do play, they can play to the best of their abilities. And I don't think all franchises do that. And if I had to guess, it probably starts with, you know who? You guessed it, Steph Curry, right? The face of the franchise, the leader. He's like, again, this is all just, presumption. But it's like, let's say Otto's got to sit out a week like he did so many times this year. Steph's like, get right, get ready. We know you'll be ready when we need you, da-da-da-da-da. Not all organizations work like that. A lot of the time, these guys are feeling like kind of guilty and pressure to play and perform, especially if they're on a bigger contract. And so not all load management is created equal in my eyes. And I think you're seeing with the Warriors culture and and help. How good they are certainly helps, right? You know, it's a different story if you're a bad team and you're load managing, right? So there's different scenarios, but for whatever reason, Steph, the culture, the depth and talent level on this roster, I think they allow guys to load manage in a positive way. And so I say all that to say that DiVincenzo, hopefully, you know, he's still a young guy. I'm sure he's going to want to play a lot, but I'm just saying they can keep him healthy throughout the year because he's going to be a good fit. Nice dynamic fit. What else? What else do I want to cover here, man? There's been so much. I'll drop a part 2 of free agency pod, and I'll release it to everybody. The first part 1 was an exclusive to Patreon. Got to do what I got to do to pay the bills, right? The one thing that I want to talk about too moving forward is look, there looks like there's one more roster spot. Bielitsa he got his ring and dipped. He's like, I'm going back overseas, baby, to take a bigger role, most likely. Can't blame him. We got to get we got to get another big body in there. I know that, you know, everybody's excited about the rookies, Wiseman, Moody, Kuminga, contributing more and having more opportunity this coming season. That's all fine and well. And I also understand that the front office can just tell everybody who complained last year, myself included, about not getting another big for the bench to just kiss the ring. I get it. I know they can say that. But just because you got away with it last season doesn't mean that you're going to get away with it this season. And so I'd love to see them fill out that last spot with a big body, preferably a veteran big body. I've thrown out the name Dwight Howard. I know he's not a Warriors locker room culture guy, but he's been a different, mature dude, at least on the court from what I've seen the last few years. Tristan Thompson, another, you know, guys that you couldn't imagine being part of this Warriors culture. Who else? I had a couple other names. Bismack Biyombo's out there, who was with the Suns last year. How about Greg Monroe? He fits the system. Not exactly a defender. Someone threw out the name Serge Ibaka. I'm not sure if he's got anything left in the tank after the back surgery. He can't elevate, right? And he's not big enough to really be a positional defender. He doesn't weigh enough. But, hey, maybe he's feeling better. Maybe it just took a year or two to get back and right, so they do their check. I'll throw a young name out at you. Moses Brown was with the Thunder. I think the Celtics had him for a second. 7'2", super long kid. I don't know why he's not sticking. But, again, I'm not talking about a rotational player. I'm talking about a break glass in case of emergency big that would be nice to fill out the bench rather than, you know, some 5'10" dude. But we'll see how they fill it out. I think the DiVincenzo recovery signing is a big deal, man, and it's a great system fit. Summer League, California Classic, it's only Moses Moody. I'm going to cover him and probably Keegan Murray in some sort of breakdown over the weekend, and then I will cover all of Vegas Summer League, where hopefully we see Big Jimbo. Is that what they call him? I don't know, man. Hopefully we see all the rooks around the league. I want to see a lot of these young boys. I want to see Ben Caro, and I want to see Ivy, too. I want to see what he looks like. Not probably the ideal setting for him in Summer League, but we'll see. If you're interested in that coverage, please consider supporting me on my Patreon through the offseason because there's a ton of other stuff that I will be putting out on there. But if not, I'll hit you back on here on YouTube and check out the podcast on Spotify, iTunes, all platforms. It's called High Volume Shooter. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.